Hey, it's Tony. We're back in action after a holiday break with even more polarizing opinions and wildly unqualified advice for 2023. Let's get into it. Dear listeners, just when you thought that it couldn't get any worse, it's about to get funnier. Sincerely, Tactless.
I'm Sasha. I'm a girl with a warm heart, and I'm already sick of your shit, so don't try me. But I still love you.
I'm Tony. I'm a frustrated musician who will tell you to your face being a dog mom is not a thing.
Hi, I'm Lizzie. I'm the tiny lady marmalade that holds this turd sandwich together.
And we're back. We hope you guys had the kind of holidays that didn't send you to Reddit's AITA to make sure that you were indeed not the a-hole. First up, the long-awaited, possibly outdated, discussion on MNH, otherwise known as Meghan and Harry. We watched the 60 Minutes Anderson Cooper interview. That will be included in the show notes if you haven't seen it. And about 2/3 of us were able to power through the Netflix documentary. So, what did you guys think?
So it's all just so fake seeming. Like all of
Yeah.
a sudden he was this bigot and he had no idea he was racist until she came along and showed him the light or something. I don't know, it's just interesting how all of a sudden he's coming out in the public with all this stuff and he's like, people think that it's just because of her, but it's always been this way. I'm like, no, I don't think it was, but I didn't really know them personally, so I guess you can't really say. But I didn't read the book. I haven't read any excerpts from the book, but in the interview that he did with Anderson Cooper, the only thing I kept seeing was like, first of all, the book is called Spare. So like he's like a spare to his brother.
Yeah.
So there's like that sibling rivalry thing happening. And then at the beginning, he quotes some passage from the book where he's insulting, what's his name?
Oh, William.
William, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. He's insulting William and talking about his receding hairline and how he used to look like his mother, but now he's not. His looks are fading. And it just sounded like petty to me.
Right?
It wasn't
low blow. Oh my gosh.
It's like, why would you need to say that? That was just kind of strange. Like, so the whole thing to me is like, I hate to speculate like this, but knowing how narcissists are, and I do believe that Meghan Markle is a narcissist, she looked for that, chink in his armor, so to speak, and capitalized on that insecurity and that sibling tension that they had going. And then that was kind of the fuel for the fire. And it just went off from there. That's kind of what I saw from seeing their interactions and reading all these tabloid stories, and it seems crazy. Like there's such a divide there now where there wasn't before. I mean, Harry tries to make it sound like they were kind of going at it for a while and they didn't get along, and I don't know how much of that is true. I mean, siblings do get into it sometimes. It's just natural, but it just seems like it's taken a whole other turn where he's literally moving out of the country to get away from everybody. And he doesn't even talk to them anymore, which is really sad because he has nieces and nephews, and his dad, he doesn't talk to his dad anymore. He completely annihilated Camilla from what they were saying about the book. So he's kind of burning bridges everywhere, which is the goal of a narcissist, is to isolate. So
I also got the impression, and let me know what you think about this. Harry, despite being wealthy, despite being a prince, he grew up very sheltered. And I think he was an easy mark because of that, because he hadn't had that much experience in the world. You know what I mean? What do you think?
And he did have those insecurities too. You can see he's living in his brother's shadow the whole time. And here comes this, I mean, it sounds like he was experimenting with drugs and getting drunk all the time. And then like supposedly Meghan Markle is like his savior now. She saved him from all that and allowed him to stabilize himself and become a father and all this stuff. But I think maybe you're right. Maybe he doesn't know how to function as a normal person, probably, as I'm sure most royals don't know how. They don't know any other way when you grow up like that. But it just seems like he has a lot of insecurities and he feels inadequate in some ways. And as we all know, narcissists are great at love bombing you initially to kind of build you up, and then maybe that's kind of the catalyst for everything. Maybe that was her strategy to get in there and get a hold of him and get control over him.
Well, and it's funny because I recognize like another type A nut job, you know what I mean? Like that's what she is. And I'm saying that in the most loving capacity that I possibly can, is that she's very driven. She knows what she wants, you know, all this stuff, and she's gonna get it, kind of a thing, you know. And that in most cases is fine. But in her personal relationships, it's awful. You know what I mean? Like it's she doesn't know how to turn it off. And that
Yeah.
and I think there is a lot of narcissism, like you said. Like she's just out for number one. I think I told you about this lady. I used to work for a corporation where I was the trainer in this particular department. And she came up to me her first week and she goes, you know, I really feel like I should be a manager. Like I really feel like this is my calling. I should be manager. And I was like, you just started. You know what I mean? And I got that impression from Meghan. She was like, I'm in the royal family. Who cares if they've been around for thousands of years? I think I could run this better than anybody else.
I could
It's
be
like,
the queen and I don't have to curtsy to anybody. Yeah.
I know. And it's like, no, you just started. You need to kind of you play by the rules until they give you more responsibility. It's like getting a new job, right? Like you play by the rules, you learn, you gain your cred in the organization, and then you move up.
Yeah, it's like you need some level of humility because you're entering in this world that you're unfamiliar with that's been in existence for hundreds of years. But it's like she came into it thinking like she was going to put her own spin on things, and it doesn't work that way. Like you don't just get to take over, and she didn't like it when she didn't get her way and people weren't bound down to her, so that's why she flipped out.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't, like, once you see through her, you see through her. It's kind of frustrating in a sense because the lack of genuineness, the lack of care, and like the selfishness is just kind of like overwhelming sometimes to see that in her. I don't even know if she realizes what she's doing, as most narcissists don't.
Mm-mm.
But it's just like you see this pattern of her interacting badly with the whole family, and she, like, what's different from before? Everything is so different in their lives now ever since she came into it. She's the reason why. Everything points back to her.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of hard to ignore that.
I know you couldn't handle the Meghan and Harry documentary, so I did watch all of it. And I'll give you my takeaway as a armchair psychologist. Her dad seems highly permissive, and her mom kind of is flaky. And I think she ran the show as a child. You know what I mean? Like I think she's always been in charge, and so that's how she was kind of fostered to this character. You know what I mean? And so she's really strong-willed. She's really like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and it's got to be my way because my way's best. Who's to argue? You know, no one's ever argued with me before. So,
Right. Nobody does and lives to tell about it anyway.
that's true. We haven't heard from
She'll
the others.
ruin you. Yep.
I vacillate between having like sympathy for Harry because I know he was a mark in this instance, but also I'm pissed off that it went this far. Because like, if your ex, you know, if he had gone, oh yeah, I'm going to air your family's dirty laundry to the press, like you'd have been like, no, we're not doing that. But he's
I
in a
wouldn't
position.
take interviews and make it worse. Right. Yeah, he's run with this. He wrote a book. He's telling
Making
anybody
money,
who will listen.
you know.
Yeah, at the expense of his family. Like that's pretty cold-blooded to do that to your family. I understand he's had issues with them, but it just seems to be going too far.
It's really too far, and that's why it seems like there's a puppet master behind him, you know, pulling the strings. It doesn't seem like something he would have done, before. And it's like with any family. Every family's got skeletons. Every family's got problems. Every family's got sibling rivalry. And your siblings know the right thing to say to push your buttons if they're mad at you, right? Like they
Mm-hmm.
have the ammunition. He states that he wants reconciliation, but like, how do you bounce back from this? Honestly, it's ridiculous. If my brother had gone, oh yeah, she used to look like our mom, but now she looks like an old hag, I'd be like, okay, you're out.
Yeah, that's kind of not gonna be exactly the kind of action you want to take to try to repair that relationship, is insulting people,
Yeah, I can't bounce
especially
back from that.
physically like that. It seems so juvenile. Like, oh,
Well,
you're ugly, so yeah.
and that's probably like the bald spot and everything. That's probably like a source of insecurity for William, and he knows it. So he's gonna
That's
poke
exactly
at
what
it.
I was gonna say. Yeah, I bet you. I mean, like, when he was younger, they'd have him in magazines for young girls, like, oh, look, he's such a heartthrob. But nobody was talking about Harry like that.
No,
Now he's all balding, and I'm sure he's insecure about that.
probably right. I mean, most men before, and he started balding pretty young. It wasn't like,
Yeah.
he's in his 50s or whatever. So,
It's just sad, I think, because I can kind of relate to him. Like you're saying, you kind of want to give him some sympathy because he he doesn't really understand what's happening in his own life. He thinks that he's being enlightened by this outside person who's objective to his life and to the royal family and all of the things that he's been through. But it just seems like he's being manipulated and that he's being preyed upon. And narcissists are really good at that. That's nothing to be ashamed of. Even after the fact, sometimes you feel duped and you feel stupid for not seeing it, but they're pros at it. That's their wheelhouse.
mhm.
But it does make me sad that he's turning on his family. And then I wonder how long their marriage is going to last. Like, maybe that's kind of mean to say, but it makes you wonder how long they can keep this up for. And then what happens if they do break up? What is he going to do with his family? Like, has he done irreparable harm to the whole situation, or will they be willing to forgive and welcome him back in? I don't know. He's done a lot of damage, which kind of seems like her her whole goal is to like get him away from his family and then link him to her to the point where there's no turning back. He's chosen his side, obviously.
Mhm.
So what do you do? Where do you go from there? It's just saddening. There's a lot of narcissists in the world, and a lot of people have never experienced it, so they don't know what to look for. And then when it happens to them, it just seems like, oh, this is a nice person, because at the beginning they're so kind and they seem considerate. They always reach out to you, see how you're doing. It's all manipulation, and it's sad when especially because they have kids together now. It's not going to be an easy thing to get away from if he ever does decide that he wants to open his eyes to what's really happening and try to do something about it. It's going to be really hard for him.
It is. Well, and like you've said in the past, like the reason that you know that you could leave is because you had that familial support. You knew that you had somebody to run to. And
Right.
I don't know that he feels like he has that. Like, where would he go? Tyler Perry is on Meghan's side. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
does he have anybody that she lets that close to him? Probably not.
probably not. She controls everything. She's the gatekeeper of his world now. So that's the way she wanted it.
Mhm.
She got her title. She's in the royal family. She locked him down with a couple of kids. It sounds like his brother tried to warn him maybe about her, but he just wasn't having it. It doesn't sound like William is coming from a place of hatred or whatever. It's not like he's being malicious towards him, but he kind of took it as such. Or it always comes back to the race issue, which I'm not sure that that's really the issue or not, but maybe he'll see the light one day, maybe he won't. Guess we'll find out.
curious to hear your thoughts as a dude who was married to a narc, so essentially, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I saw some I watched it, and full disclosure, I also watched some of the Netflix docuseries that they did as well,
mhm.
which I think was helpful because Meghan was in it, and you can kind of see, although there was a lot of creative editing by Netflix to try to make her not look so terrible, she kind of flew her flag there too. So I went into the 60 Minutes thing with a little bit of prior knowledge of what was going on. Not to mention, I obviously had some knowledge of the royal family and all that kind of stuff to begin with. But I think, first of all, to me, the overarching theme of the 60 Minutes interview was it almost seemed like he was doing some sort of damage control from the Netflix thing. And I don't know if you got this as well, but it was almost like he thought it was safer to come out by himself and say some of these things and kind of set the record straight without Meghan being involved. And I'm going to give stuff away for the Netflix docuseries, but talk about how she thought it was a joke that she would have to curtsy for the queen, and how she like just did this really over the top pomp and circumstance kind of crap with them.
Totally agree, 100%. He did a lot of backtracking about what was said in the Oprah interview, actually, in the Anderson Cooper interview.
And I haven't read the book, so I couldn't tell you exactly, but he didn't seem like he spoke about the book so much. It seemed to be about how he was traumatized by his mom's passing when he was a kid, which I'll hand it to him, dude. That would get me if I was a 12-year-old kid and my mother died.
Mm-hmm.
And then it went straight from there to his relationship with his wife. He did a couple things here and there, and I'm not going to try to completely vilify him or anything. Although full disclosure, I don't think that he has handled what he's been dealt correctly. But it is his own choice to make. The thing that caught me at first was that he was a 12-year-old kid who lost his mom, and it sounded like no one put forth the idea or the effort to get him some sort of counseling for that. Like, grief
Yeah.
counseling is not only an impressionable age, but a transitional age
Mm-hmm.
where you're trying to figure out kind of who you are as a man, and things are changing, and you're growing past the kid phase, and then you have to deal with that. And it sounded like he didn't really get into any sort of therapy or really taking a hard look at what happened and how he dealt with it until he was much older, which is sad for him. I think that was really detrimental to his development. And I think that overall, what happens to him was that he was very, very traumatized by losing his mother. It spilled over into all his other relationships, especially sounds like with his brother,
Yeah.
that they kind of were off and on, not happy with each other or whatever was going on there. He didn't really go into that too deeply, but I think it really set him up to be a codependent, which really set him up to be the perfect person for someone like Meghan to snatch up. He saw himself as someone who needs somebody strong around him because his mother was gone, and she comes in and she's a strong-willed person. you know I don't think that it's a healthy way to act on her case. There's ways to be a strong-willed person and not a blatant narcissist, and that's great. But I really do think that all of his family's skepticism around her was warranted. Just judging by the interviews that I've heard, just judging by her just very demeanor. during some of this stuff. She's talking about how she had Will and Kate over and she's wearing like ripped jeans and no shoes, and like she has no regard for the royal family. She has no regard for the position. It just seems like she almost wants to spit in the face of it just to show that she can't,
That brings up a question that I have for you about this, because we both watched the stupid curtsy thing in the
That pissed me
documentary.
off.
I was like, this dying swan
Really did.
crap, and I was mad at this. She mentioned the Princess Diaries. She's watched those movies, right? Like they had they had like a whole battery of people teaching poor Mia to, curtsy and all this crap. And I don't know if that's what she was expecting, or like, do you think she's that big of an idiot to not know that you need to curtsy to the queen? Or do you think that she was like, well, I'm Meghan Markle, I get like a free pass? Like, what is your thought on that?
I don't think she's that big of an idiot. I think that she's pretty intelligent and she's just that arrogant. I really do. Because that really comes across when you hear her speak candidly about what was going on. She really comes across as arrogant. And unfortunately, I think that's why Will would call her an American actress as sort of a dig on her. I mean, I get it, I'm an American, but I think that a lot of foreign countries look at our people, especially Hollywood actresses and actors, as just being arrogant a-holes, And I think she really fit that stereotype to the point where it was warranted for him to say that about her. And she's kind of proven time and again that she's an American actress, and that's it. To me, there's something to having a country that's a constitutional monarchy, right? I mean, they have the royals on one side, but they also have a representative body of the people that kind of come together in this interesting way to rule the country. And it's been shown that countries that have that monarchy in place, even though they have a body of representatives, the populace is happier because they have, and not to downplay it, but they have a figurehead. They have almost a mascot sort of for their own country. Whereas, in America, you have a different president every 4 to 8 years. Somebody comes, somebody goes, somebody comes, somebody goes. So there's not really like a constant figurehead. There's not a constant, like, we can rally behind this as a people to really get the job done for our country. And I think that it's a big deal, but probably bigger than they want to admit. As far as Harry and Meghan are concerned, it's a big deal that they are who they are, and that their position is to unify the country, to show the face of the people, to show, all of these things that end up trickling down to the populace in a positive way so that they can unite. And to be completely frank, I feel like Harry kind of threw up a middle finger to all of that. And I understand that it's a product of his upbringing and his trauma and childhood and whatnot. I get that. But I also really understand why the British people don't like Meghan.
Yeah.
Because he even brings up like, oh, I changed as a person, and it was when I was with Meghan, so everybody thinks she's some sort of witch. But there is truth in that statement that he changed when he was with her. And I know he was troubled when he was younger and whatnot, but he had a choice to make. And he picked his allegiance to her above anything else. Which, as a royal, I feel like you really have an allegiance to your position and to your country in a way, just like if you were in the military, you have a job and you have that position to play. And if you do end up marrying somebody who hates that you get deployed, it's not going to work. You're either going to have to quit the military or you're going to have to quit that person. And it's kind of this, I kind of look at it this the same way. Is she had this disdain for his position and his family,
Mm-hmm.
and he ended up kicking his whole family and almost, I almost see it like he almost kicked his country to the curb in favor of her.
Pretty much, right? Like he was like, I literally don't want anything to do with whatever's across the pond, kind of a thing.
Yeah, and he kind of made it even clearer in participating in these docu-series and these, you know, these interviews and whatnot, where
Mm-hmm.
he tries to say, oh, you know, I'm just trying to speak the truth and all this other stuff, but yet he's doing what he doesn't like. You know, my relationships with my brother and my dad and everybody are kind of on the rocks. It's like, well, no shit, dude. Like you kind of you kind of like, you know, pulled the covers off everything and we're like, oh, I'm gonna say how terrible everybody is and how racist and whatever else, which I really do not believe at all that the royal family is racist. I mean, as far as racism goes, not to get too deep into it, but the UK has been by and far ahead of America when it comes to acceptance of other cultures and people. So,
That's true. That is the benefit of the Commonwealth, right? Like they had to
yeah.
essentially. And you know what? It was funny. I was talking to my dad about this the other night. He was like, did you know that a lot of Black soldiers from America stayed in the UK after World War II because they had more rights and stuff?
But it just as a whole, I mean, that country has been very accepting of not only African Americans, but all sorts of cultures. I mean, look at how many people immigrate to the UK,
Mm-hmm.
right? They've been doing this stuff for, for quite some time. I
Right.
really don't think there's underlying racism against a girl who happens to be mixed race, which I don't think, you know, and maybe this is just me speaking for myself and where I am, but
Mm-hmm.
that's not a thing for me. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think she's beautiful. She really is.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
what
She's
would
good
you have
looking gal,
against her?
right?
I think her personality sucks, but that doesn't have anything to do with her race or anything else. You know, there are plenty of white people. I think their personality is crap. You know, doesn't mean that I
Right.
hate white people.
I think that's the thing is, and I wonder if she's mistaking the fact that she is a type A nut job who happens to be mixed race for for oh no, they don't like me because I'm, they're racist versus no, you kind of throw your weight around and you came into this family expecting accolades, that you're in suits or
Yeah,
whatever, whereas you're low on the totem pole now.
yeah, and I think really her lack of humility played a big part. You know, if you come from anywhere that's not royal into a royal family, you do it with humility.
Yeah,
I would. I mean, I would lay back for a little while and get the lay of the land and, you know, just do what I'm told for a minute before you figure out what's going on. Like
right,
don't be so arrogant to assume that you could just be yourself and come, you know, kicking the door in and everybody's just gonna be like, oh wow, how brave of you. Like that doesn't fly. There's a lot of tradition there. There's a lot of responsibility. Like I
hmm,
was saying, I mean, that's a figurehead for the country. Whether or not you're the king and the queen, if you are in the royal family, you need to understand that, I think, in a way. And
agreed.
yeah, maybe you're not in the spotlight all the time, but when you are, yeah, you have to be that. You have to be that person. You have to be a duke or a duchess, and that
Mm,
comes with a certain amount of poise and humility. And she just doesn't have it. Not
I,
to mention when she was talking about and this goes to the Netflix thing, when she was talking about having paparazzi follow her around, it was one of those things where she was complaining with a smile. Like
mm,
she seemed flattered and almost pleased that they were following her around. Like she enjoyed it, but she knew that she should probably complain.
Like all he knows is that yes, he hates the paparazzi. They killed my mom, kind of a
Yeah.
thing. They bothered me on vacation. They outed me for doing drugs and stuff like that. Like he hates these people. And so her disdain of the paparazzi is probably, like you said, not genuine. It's for him. It's it's a theatrical performance kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Because I do get the impression that she wants to be Angelina Jolie. You know what I mean? Like she wants to be that level, like the UN involvement and all that stuff. I was like, how the
Yeah.
hell did Meghan Markle, B actress, get a UN thing? Actually,
She was not super famous for anything until she dated him. It makes me really wonder because you hear stories of staffers quitting because of her. People really getting rubbed the wrong way, and it makes you wonder how many people she stepped on to get where she is now who just aren't about her at all. Those are the interviews that I would be interested in listening to now that I've heard her. Is like somebody who will say, this is how she talked to me when the doors were closed and the cameras weren't on and no one was telling her how brave she was. This is what she acted like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I really get the impression from the little tidbits that I've heard and the bits that I've just gathered by seeing her that she would be a terrible person to be around in a regular setting.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And I think that Harry, it really is a codependent. He seems like a really kind guy who doesn't have enough of I guess force of will and for lack of a better way to describe it, and he almost enjoys having a strong woman in his life that kind of guides him around so he doesn't have to worry about it.
I think you're totally right, because what little I have read of Spare, he obviously had a ghostwriter because he couldn't have written that eloquently. I very much doubt. But the details that were included in that book, I think he was manipulated into giving them too. They were things that I don't think a normal person would have shared. It just kind of it seems like he's, and it like saying how many kills he had in Afghanistan, like that stuff. That is not something that a normal soldier would say. And I think he was manipulated into that too, because like you said, he's weak, he's easily led, he just doesn't have that much life experience outside of being a royal in this very sheltered environment.
Yeah. And knowing as many folks in the military as I've known, and some of my really close friends, they don't talk about how many kills they've had. They mention that you're told how many kills you have. It's part of your paperwork and all that stuff, that your confirmed kill list is in there, but no one talks about, oh, I had so many or whatever.
It's poor taste, and most people don't want to remember.
Is. Yeah. No, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that is a good way to describe this whole thing of him coming out with all these stories and stuff. It really is just all in poor taste, in my opinion. It is, and thinking about, putting myself in William's shoes, who he hasn't come out with stuff like that. He seems to understand his role very well, and it probably pisses him off that his brother's doing it. It really seems that way, that at some point in his life, maybe because he was a little older, he got what he was supposed to do, and he understood that, like, you just don't do this kind of stuff. I mean, even as not, I'm not in any spotlight anywhere, I would never write a book about my personal encounters with stuff like that, just based on my own principles. And then to see somebody who's that famous doing it just really rubs you the wrong way, and makes you think, like, did he do this for some notoriety? Did he do this for the money? I don't know. Like, what was his motivation? What was his true motivation? He talks about, getting the truth out there. is that really what he's trying to do?
Gonna go between, oh, I feel really bad for him because yes, he's had a hard life. I mean, anybody losing their mom and in
For
such a
sure.
public way is ridiculous. I can't fathom. I really can't fathom. But at the same time, the fact that you're like, oh yes, screw my entire family, no matter that, yes, my brother also went through this trauma with my
Yeah.
mom. It was his mom too.
Yeah. I think that really also speaks to how you can have two people have the same experience and come away with two completely different attitudes, two
Mhm.
completely different perceptions of that experience. Yeah, I'm sure Will was torn up by it. I mean, you can't tell me that your mom dies when you're a young guy and it doesn't hurt. It hurts everybody.
Right.
It's how you react to it. It's where you move forward. Really shows your character. And I
Mhm.
think that I said because he was at that impressionable age,
Mhm.
that maybe it just messed him up from the get-go.
Yeah, it's very possible because he went into drug use and all that stuff,
Yeah.
and
He said he
really,
drank a lot and did
yeah,
all sorts of, he partied a bunch and all that
yeah,
stuff.
self-medicating and all that deal. I wonder because Charles' siblings and he did not lose their mom at a young age. They were lucky she lived to 96. I wonder
Yeah.
if Harry had come alongside, say, like not Andrew, obviously, because he's a disaster, but maybe Edward, who's a youngest son, never going to be king, and
Yeah.
he seems to have his place. He knows where his position in the family is. He does his thing. His wife was really close to Queen Elizabeth. I wonder if he had taken Harry under his wing and been like, hey, this is how you do the youngest son thing, like, would that
Yeah.
have changed his trajectory, or was he that far gone?
I can see it to a point, but I also hold jealousy as one of the ugliest emotions you can have because it does some nasty stuff to people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that, if he really is jealous of his brother because his brother is first in line, then maybe that has something to do with him crapping all over this thing.
Wonder. Well, and it's funny because he was doing his own thing for so long, right? He had the Invictus Games. He went down to Africa and volunteered and all that stuff. And he seemed like he was doing okay. Like he had his own.
Yeah. It almost circles back to Meghan.
Yeah.
Like, does she put it in his head? Like, well, you're not first in line for the throne, and
Mm.
maybe you should be because you're fantastic. I don't know.
Yeah, Ginger for King. Ginger for King.
Right. Think about, like, he never seemed to before Meghan, he never seems to really have this want to be king.
Mm-hmm.
He, like you said, he was kind of doing his own thing and he did whatever. And it almost seems like she put it in his head, like, well, you're only ever going to be second best to Will. That's
Seemed
a
like,
narcissist
yeah,
thing to do. It
right, the
really is.
playbook, right, to destroy your
To
thoughts on
kind
your
of like
family.
poke and it seems like she's like her goal was to almost like to conquer Harry.
Mm-hmm.
And she seemed very satisfied in the interview that she literally got him to forsake everyone and everything else in his life for her.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she is regretting that he's not first in line to the throne because that would be a greater accomplishment for her
That
if
would have
she could get
been.
a king to renounce his throne, not just a prince, a spare prince.
You know what? That brings up the question Anderson Cooper asked him. Why didn't you give up your royal title when you left? Because you renounced everything else. And then Harry was like, well, what would that change? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and that I think that was a very good question. And I think Harry answered it in a stupid way. If he really was concerned with walking away from this stuff and having his own life and doing his own thing, I think what that would have changed was to show everyone this isn't for me. I'm going to go live a quiet life and do my own thing. But he would also have had to pass on the Netflix doc. He would have had to pass on all the interviews in the book and stuff and just go live his normal life with his wife and kids. if that was truly his motivation, I think that would have been the way that he would have gone. And maybe that's why people are questioning all this stuff, is because he's not committing to one side or the other. He's saying one thing, but he's not living it out, you know. He's not letting go of his royal title, which if it was really that bad and you just want to be married and have kids and do your thing, then let it go, dude. You know, show everybody that this isn't what's important to me and I don't care, and I'm gonna walk away from that. It's been done
Yeah,
before.
it has. I know. Well, I mean, his great uncle,
Yeah.
great uncle, went and lived in France and lived a
Yeah.
quiet life,
No one
and
heard anything else
yeah,
from him, really.
that was about
Did
it.
his own thing, and maybe he was happy doing that, and that's
Yeah.
fine. But I don't know. There's just, you tend not to believe somebody who doesn't practice what they preach, you know,
Generally, yeah.
who doesn't, you know, he says all this stuff and he's still out literally using his family, his upbringing, his country as a means to make money for
Mhm.
himself. And he could say all day that it's not about the money, but when you tell me he did $100 million deal with Netflix, that helped him out.
Just a
Any way
tad.
you want to look at it.
Just a tad, right?
You know, that's not nothing. The minutes paid him for the interview because you know they did.
Yeah.
That's how that stuff works, you know. He's still using that position.
He is. He really is. I know. That's it's so contradictory. But he thinks he's in the right, or at least that's his public response, is that he's doing the right thing by putting this out there, like strike before they strike kind of a deal, you know. Which
Yeah, and I'm sure Meghan reassures him that's the case.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I think this is 100% her game to play.
Yeah, she likes the limelight. I mean, and I don't fault her for that. Like, that's not a thing that I'm like, oh yes, you're stupid for liking that. If you're an actor, it probably helps, right?
You
To like
you
it.
almost have to be that way in some sense.
Yeah.
But there's also a line that you cross. There's also a point at which it becomes ugly,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
As a musician, I enjoy performing. I do. I like getting in front of people and playing music. But there's also an element of it for me that still makes me nervous, that still makes me shy away from it in a way. Like
Mhm.
I enjoy it, but I also, like, I'm not gonna, you know, jump up and down on stage and set myself on fire just because I like people looking at me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's a line, there's like, I enjoy this, but then again, you know, when I'm not playing, I'm good just being myself and not talking to anybody.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. I get you. I get you. It's nice to have those lights in your face so you don't see what the audience is seeing.
Yeah, and you have to have some sort of balance there. It can't be
Yeah.
all one side or all the other side, I don't think.
Yeah.
It's not healthy.
Okay, here is our Am I the a-hole question. My wife and I have been married for a while, and ever since we got married, she tends to ask me a quote unquote, guess what question whenever something crazy or funny happens. I have always been very literal and grew up with my dad, who was a lawyer, and mother, who worked in the engineering field. So I've always been held to a high standard when communicating with people. That is not super relevant, but what is relevant is that whenever I was asked a question, I was expected to reply with an answer that was well thought out, or my best guess if I did not know the exact answer. Fast forward to me now. I am happily married, and although we have our fights, I am secure and happy in our relationship, and my wife has communicated to me that she feels the same. Here comes the but. Ready? But every time she has asked me a guess what question, I think through where she is, what she had planned for the day, and what we're planning on doing later, and respond with a guess, and unfortunately, I'm usually spot on or very close in my guesses, and it makes her upset. That's funny. She showed me several articles online about how to respond to someone when they ask you, guess what? And it is usually to say what and get excited. So she's telling him how to answer. Anyway, I like guessing though and enjoy thinking through the problem and getting the thing she's talking about without her having to tell me outright. She says that I'm the a-hole for this, but I want to see what you guys think. Am I the a-hole? That's kind of funny. I mean, it just sounds like two different personalities. One is very cerebral, very intentional, very literal, as he said. And the other person's more like emotion driven, like excited, and they want to make it like more dramatic. And the other person's like, no, we're not being dramatic. We're going to be factual. Like, I mean, I wouldn't say that they're an a-hole. I just think it's like two different personalities. It's like not one isn't bad. It's just they're just different, and probably communicating would be different. Maybe sometimes he could throw her a bone and be like, what? What are you doing? What's going on? You told me you were going to the store to get T-bone steaks, but you know, that's probably what's happening. But I don't know what's happening. I don't know. It's just kind of funny that it upsets her, but not funny, but
It's the stuff of sitcoms, right? Like you have the ultra cerebral engineer brain type person, and then the it's like Dharma and Greg.
oh yeah, it's like that. You see couples like that a lot.
Mhm.
One is more serious, the other one's more just free, and I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah,
More, what is the word? Free spirited.
there you
Just
go.
more free spirited, kind of going with the wind. And he's obviously not like that. He's
No.
very deliberate, and it's probably difficult for him to do that.
And if he'd married somebody like him, they would have killed each other or taken over the world. One of the two. We don't know. Either way, it would have been dangerous. So that's, the
Yeah.
opposites attracting. It kind of works.
They do. It does work. And like that's probably why he chose her, because she was different and because she lightened him up a little bit. I mean, I don't think it's something to get that upset over, but if it does really bother her, he could think in his head what she's going to say, like try to figure it out, not necessarily say that and be like, hey, what? Like, what's going on? Like, what happened? Let her do her thing, because she likes to do it. It sounds like she enjoys telling little stories and getting excited about it, her day, and that's fine. If that makes her happy, then what's the harm in just giving her that opportunity here and there?
All
You
right.
don't have to do it all the time, but I'm sure she'd appreciate it.
All right. Guess what, Sasha?
What? You're doing a podcast right now?
I was trying to illustrate the proper way to just play along, right? We all make sacrifices for the people
can.
we love, right? Just
You
be like,
do. Yeah.
what? Yeah, it's one word.
Yeah, it's like that kind of takes the wind out of her sails a little bit. And what do they say? Happy wife, happy life. So that's what it takes. Sometimes,
One little
turning off
thing.
your brain for a second and just saying, what's going on? Being a little bit excited, then do that. It's fine. But I don't think it makes them a jerk, but
Nah.
I think it's an easily remedied thing.
Yep, I have an opinion on this.
Okay.
Just because I understand that it's maybe this is just to women. I don't know. But I understand that people think it's cute to say, guess what? But when someone tells me, like, guess this, or what do you think I'm thinking? I literally think through and try to answer it. Unless I have no idea. And then I'm like, I have no idea what you're thinking. Like, I'll be honest. But I don't really like being put on the spot like that to begin with. I don't know. It's not that cute to me, I guess. Maybe that's
Fair
just
enough.
me.
Maybe it's a girl thing.
I'm a very logical, like say what you mean what you say kind of dude.
Mhm.
And like that little like guess what I'm gonna say, guess what I'm thinking, guess what I want to do. I'll be like, I'll think about it for a minute and maybe I'll answer if I think I know. But don't get mad if somebody guesses it. You literally ask them to guess. Like, come on.
Yeah, don't get mad if they actually do it. It's well, you know what struck me as amusing is the fact that she had to like give him articles on how to
Yeah,
respond.
that that hit me too because I was like, it's that important to you that he literally just say what instead of actually guessing that you made him read an article about it? Come on.
Making a concession. If this is the one thing that she wants, is you just to act kind of surprised, then you could give it to her, right?
Yeah, I get that side of it too. Like I don't think on either side of it it's really a hill that I would die on
Yeah,
just because it's like a nothing argument kind of.
kind of. Yeah, it's
Like,
hilarious.
I don't think he's the a-hole for being who he is, and I don't necessarily think it's terrible that she wants him to say what whenever she
Yeah.
says guess what. But I think it's just humorous that it became such a big thing with them.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe they have a really good relationship and this is like the only thing that pisses each other off.
That would be funny. That would be awesome, actually.
And if that's the case, then you guys, thank God that's the only thing that you're upset about.
All right, hashtag relationship goals right here.
I would be okay with that. Like, good Lord.
I love it. I love
But
it.
yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, if she's really gets value out of that and just wants you to say what, then just I don't know, play it up a little bit or
Oh, for sure.
throw her a bone every other one, or I don't know. It's not that big of a deal.
I
But then
didn't think
again,
so.
even if he knows it right off the bat and guesses too, like don't be mad at him. If he's like, yeah, every Tuesday you want to go eat Thai food, I get it. You're predictable. You can't say guess what? I know you. Like, be glad that he knows who you are.
That's true. That's true. That he remembers stuff. I mean, like, as a female who has dated many men, to more than I would like to admit to, like having a
Most of
dude,
which don't pay attention or know what you really want in life.
right? Yeah,
Yeah, right.
having them remember what you were going to do or what you said, period. That's incredible. That is a really good point.
Yeah, it seems to be a more of a case of both of them looking at the negative instead of the positive too.
That's
Like,
fair. That's fair.
and
Well,
just
yeah.
letting little things be little things. Maybe they haven't had time in like like some people, you know, when you get some time into your relationship, you literally stop even noticing those little things because you're like, it's been 12 years. They do it all the time. Whatever.
Or whatever.
You know?
That's our thing. I like that perspective. That was good. You know what's funny too? I always thought about like, did she want to do like the guess what? Chicken butt. Like, was that what she was going for?
There's an idea. Next time she says, guess what? Say chicken butt and see what she says. Throw her a curveball, you know. Girls like spontaneous men. Come out with an answer that's like completely from left field. She's like, guess what? Be like, you robbed a bank today and you want me to help you bury the money. She's like, no, that's not it. I'm like, well, it's the first thing that popped in my head.
That would be so oh my gosh.
At least if you could get her to laugh, you know, completely the opposite direction and just say something ridiculous just because.
Yeah.
Like, I really know that you want me to do one thing. That's probably not a good trait, but it's funny for me. Maybe it's why I'm not married. I don't know. You keep accusing me of these crimes that you want to.
And only half of them are true.
mean, that's kind of like how it normally goes, I guess, where people are just like, what? That's what she's used to, but she got with her a different kind of man.
That's funny. Well, yeah. And hopefully she makes some concessions for him too. I have to clarify with that too. Like you can say what and try and sound excited. Where at the same time she needs to concede, make some compromises for you too. If that's not happening, then it's not good.
Yeah, but if this is their biggest issue, like more power to you guys. You guys are killing it then.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest problem you have.
Agreed.
It's not too bad. That was a cute one though.
That was super cute.
Am I the a-hole for telling my brother that I want an apology from his wife and not him? So my 11-year-old son goes to a skate park after school with his friends, who include his cousin / my nephew Jack, who is also 11. I went to pick up both boys when I saw a crowd of kids by the fence. I went over and asked what was so interesting, and they pointed to a snake. Not just a snake, but a rattlesnake. They'd never seen one before, maybe outside a zoo, and I assume they were trying to get it to strike because they didn't think they'd get bit. All right. They're 11-year-old boys. They don't make the best decisions. I told them all to get away from it, and they did, except Jack, who actually got closer with his phone. I think he wanted to get a close-up video of the snake striking. I yelled at him to get away, and he told me to hold on. I took him by his arm and pulled him away. He gave me this angry stare. I told him, what the F? I'm not going to curse. This is a family show, guys. That snake can kill you. He gave me the silent treatment until his mom picked him up. Then 20 minutes later, she called me up in a rage about how I grabbed him and did this and did that and hurt him, and I'm not his dad, typical stuff. I asked her if her sweet angel told her about the rattlesnake that he was provoking. She said, what snake? I hung up. Bad move. She called up again and said that I still owed her and Jack an apology for handling him. Oh. I told her to shut up and check the phone and see if I did any of that stuff, as his camera was recording everything. An hour later, my brother called me up and said what Jack did was stupid. He was happy that I was there, but I still owed his wife an apology for telling her to shut the F up. I said I'm not apologizing for nothing. I hate double negatives, you guys. Come on. At least until she apologizes to me for coming at me sideways twice. To be honest, I don't even care because I don't like her anyways. Okay. He apologized and I said, not acceptable. She needs to apologize.
Holy smokes.
Oh Lord, where do you start?
I don't know. I like the little side note. To be honest, I don't even care. I don't like her.
So what that means is that this has been building up inside this person for a long time, and then she poked the bear, and that's why she got the shut the F up comment from him. So
Pretty much, yeah.
that's what that means, yeah. So he feels it was warranted in that moment.
As a rule, I don't like requiring apologies because the jackass in the scenario generally is the one that's requiring the apology. You know what I mean? Okay.
And like, what does he really apologize? Like, maybe he shouldn't have used that profanity with the kid, but their life was kind of in danger with the rattlesnake. It's kind of appropriate to act kind of forcefully with the child in that moment, right?
I think so. Well, and like this is right after it happened. Everybody's amped up on adrenaline, right? Probably even the nephew, I'm sure. But that aside, this person's like, holy crap, they could have died. I could have had like this whole scenario going on, Yeah, I'm
On
a
their
little amped up right
watch.
now. Yeah.
Yeah. you have someone else's child with you, it's nerve-wracking anyway.
Oh, no
God
joke.
forbid something could happen.
And it's kind of crazy because the kid did not tell his mom the whole story, which
Mm-hmm.
leads me to believe that he's just like his mom. I'm sorry. And
Yeah.
she's not quite a winner because she should
And
know
she,
that this person wanted his best interest, not to be mean to kids. Come on.
yeah. And she just jumped to conclusion like, well, my child is perfect and you're the one that went over the line. It's like your child was literally playing with a rattlesnake. You could have gotten bit. You could have gotten bit by a rattler. I'm sorry, I don't know where that came from.
No one needs to apologize. Maybe it'll be like tense for a little while, but she'll realize that yes, this person did save her child's life, so I'll let it go.
Yeah.
Maybe there won't need to be a conversation. You don't need to talk about everything. Just move on, I think sometimes. Especially if it's
Yeah.
this tense, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it seems pretty tense. You're not gonna like everyone in your family.
No,
Seems like especially the ones that marry in, like sometimes people have a hard time with them, but
for sure.
hopefully they can learn to deal with it and just accept each other for who they are.
Yeah, I
I
mean, you
know.
do that for, like we were talking about before, sometimes you make concessions for the people you love.
It doesn't say anything in here about the parents also being 11, but they sure as hell are acting like it, aren't they?
Just a little
Oh
bit,
my
yeah.
God. If you're a parent, you're supposed to have a certain level of maturity that surpasses your children. Somewhat, some are more than others, but good Lord. This is literally a nothing argument. Instead of letting your emotions get the best of you, if someone calls you up and says you all this stuff, say, hey, don't say did your little angel tell you what was come on. Just say, hey, they were messing with a rattlesnake. He got real close to it. And I was like, I would rather pull his arm away than have to take him to the hospital because he got bit by a rattlesnake for being an idiot. So that's what I did. Leave it at that. I don't think, if the parent gets mad at you beyond that, I think that's whatever, because you were literally protecting their child from possibly being killed by a snake. This shouldn't even be a thing. This shouldn't be an argument. And then the whole, I don't want you to apologize. Your wife needs to apologize. Just let it go. Oh my God. That's your nephew. Like, this is family that you're going to have to, like, see at Thanksgiving and stuff. Just, why do people hold on to all this anger so much now? Does it seem to be more so lately than it ever was, like even 10 years ago?
It does. It's pretty nut. I was like, I don't even like her. I mean, we all have family members we don't like, whatever.
Well, and
You
throwing
save the
that in
kids.
just shows me how immature this person is. Like, I wrote out this big story to get everyone's opinion, but I don't even like her. I don't even care. Forget it.
Mm.
I'm just not going to invite her to my birthday party. Like,
Oh
your
my gosh.
family, dude. Get along with each other. Just let it go.
I'm with you.
She got upset because she didn't know the whole story in the first place. Tell her the whole story.
Mm.
Let it go. It's
Yeah.
whatever.
Be grateful your kid is not rattlesnake bitten.
Yeah. I wouldn't be mad if somebody dragged one of my kids away from a rattlesnake that was going to bite him, demanding apologies and whatever. It was just a misunderstanding.
I know. I
No
hate
one gives
the
anyone the benefit of the doubt anymore. Just to
agreed.
say, like, oh, well, they were heated and their kid told them this and they thought that their kid was telling the truth.
Mhm.
I mean, I
I'm
don't really
wondering.
get too upset to begin with, even if my kid tells me something to get upset about. I I recognize that they're kids and they have a certain perspective on things that happen that may not be completely accurate. And you find out what happened and then go from there.
Right? Well, and I have a feeling that little Jack didn't say the whole story because he knew it
Yeah.
wasn't gonna make him look good. So
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing.
But
And also probably the sister-in-law. I'm feeling the feeling is probably mutual, right? Like there's just not
yeah,
mutual
there's like
trust.
underlying friction here that just, it was already on fire, and this just kind of fueled it a little bit more.
Mhm.
But again, if you guys are family, you need to just let some stuff go and just be cordial with each other. Hanging up on each other and this other cursing at each other and stuff, like, yeah.
Nah. Well, and we've talked about this before. We both have people in our family, respective families, that we don't necessarily care for. Like it's not, it's we love them because they're family. But like, would you go, to pizza with them on Friday? Like if you had no other plans, probably not, right?
Yeah, I think everybody's family has somebody that they're just like, we see them and we're fun when we're together as a family, but we're not best buddies or whatever. And that's fine. Because the other thing is, if you're a parent, you got to understand that your kids see and hear a lot more than you think they do. And you're setting a crappy example to your kids if this is how you're interacting with other adults.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a garbage example for your kids.
Thanks for bringing that up. The other two single gals over here, we don't think about
Well,
that
it's a thing. Like if that phone conversation was as heated as it sounds, even if kids weren't necessarily a quote around, they heard something.
Mhm.
They always do.
Yeah.
If they hear you raise your voice, their ears perk up like little puppies or something. And then they come, oh, what are they yelling at who about? What's going on? And they know what's going on. They know that you don't like each other. They could feel it. Kids are a lot smarter than you give them credit for. And then they really take after their parents.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you tell them it's right or not, if you're doing it, they're going to do it.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it goes.
That's fair.
So, your kids are not going to have any manageable social skills because you can't get along with somebody that you're related to. If you can't do it for yourself, at least do it for your kids' sake to get along and show your kids a good example of, hey, this person is an idiot, but I'm just going to let it go because they're family. And sometimes you just have to get along with people because you have to get along with them.
You do. I mean, that's how the world is, right? Like we're not always going to have people that we like around us, not at work,
at all.
not at
Whoever has had a boss that they thought was a huge jerk all the time. I mean, you still got to get along with them. What do you want to do? Get fired from every job you have because you don't agree with somebody?
Right.
That's not going to work out.
Totally fair.
I've seen this trend lately of females at the gym and they have their phone recording video at the time when they're there. And there will be a man somewhere looking at them while they're working out, or I don't know. And it just seems in a lot of these instances, the females are not wearing a whole lot of clothing or it's super, super tight. And I think about it sometimes and it is conflicting because it's like there's such a fine line there to where it's like creepy and when it's just kind of normal, even though it's still creepy.
Yeah.
I don't know. That doesn't make sense, but
no, I'm with you. I'm so conflicted too. I mean, as a woman that doesn't like to be looked at, period, by anyone of any gender. I don't.
at any time, in any place, ever. It's conflicting to me, as we were saying, because I really don't prefer to be looked at the gym either. But I was doing some reading about it, and it seems like men's brains are just wired to like look at women, like not like stare at them, like that's like kind of crossing the line, but they're just kind of wired to do that. They're gonna look like if there's a woman there, especially if she's taking her shirt off or wearing minimal clothing, like they're gonna look. Just it's like their natural reaction. It's just an interesting thing that's been happening lately. Like I don't prefer to be looked at the gym. I don't like that, but I don't I don't go in these tiny little tight shorts and a sports bra showing everything either, because that's kind of inviting more attention. And we had this conversation before, like we wish we could live in a world where you could dress like that and people wouldn't stare at you and it would just be a normal thing. But it's unfortunate that we can't do that. It's kind of begs the question of like who's right and who's wrong in this scenario. It's kind of, I think there's some gray area there, but what are your thoughts?
I don't like the idea, number one, of putting somebody else on my TikTok without their consent. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of like two wrongs don't make a right kind of a thing. Because number one, yeah, he doesn't know he's going on your TikTok. But number two, also, like if he loses his job over this or something like that, you just ruin this guy's life for a glance. Something pretty benign. I mean, like I've said this before. When I go to the gym, I dress like a homeless person. You know what I mean? Like I don't want looks by anybody. I just want to get in. I want to get out. Have a nice day. I understand that it is obnoxious to be stared at. I acknowledge that it's obnoxious to be addressed by anybody. Like we're all there for one thing. It's not a dating show.
Yeah, and some people go there for that reason.
Well, and one of the girls that you pointed out, she actually is an OnlyFans model. And I was like, well, this is
Oh,
great.
okay.
So maybe he recognized you from your OnlyFans. I don't know. Like, did you ask him? No. So that's a problem to me too. Like that you can't, and I hate this. Like, I know folks that listeners, I do want to hear your thoughts on this too. I know probably some of you are going to call me
Yeah.
out for victim shaming, but I'm willing to take this risk because I think two things can be true at the same time. I think it's possible to like you said, to want to live in a world where, yeah, if I want to wear my sports bra during the summer to the gym, I'm cool in it. You know, it holds me in, whatever. You know, I should be able to do that. But we live in a world where, unfortunately, dudes are going to look.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we're living. So, is it her fault that he's looking at her? I don't think so. But can she minimize the possibility of people looking at her? I think that's also true. She can take, if she doesn't like the attention, she can take steps like I do, wear your dad's old t-shirt and sweatpants from the 90s and jog on the treadmill. Like no one's going to give you two looks on that.
Yeah. It's a matter of preference too. And I think some of these women are looking for attention
Mhm.
and they're looking for people to be looking at them. And where you're looking, you're going to find it, whether it's a fleeting glance or whether it's some guy who looks at you while you're taking your shirt off. Like, I think it's going to happen. I don't know if the right reaction is to confront them in the gym like some of these women do.
Yeah, I honestly don't know, like, yeah, what the solution is. I mean, we're probably generations away from guys being evolved enough not to look at women as pieces of
Yeah.
meat in a gym. Telling them, putting them on TikTok and stuff is not going to change that behavior. It needs to be kind of bred into them from a young age.
Yeah. And it used to really, really irritate me to the point where I just stopped going to the gym for a long time
Mm-hmm.
because it seemed like it was like a meat market kind of thing. Like all the men look at all the women, and it was uncomfortable for me. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
But I wanted to go use the equipment and, get my workout in. I recently started going again. And I have seen that quite often. I've seen females coming in and the men looking at them, especially the ones that come in with like the very small clothing on. They're going to go and stare at them. If they're, a real fit woman in this tiny little outfit, they're going to look at them. And I also think that our social media kind of breeds this voyeurism in people's lives where it's fine because they're sharing it with you. You can stare all you want. You can look at them and watch what they're doing, and they're like ingratiated in their life, like whether they want it or not, just because, on Instagram, you're free to do that. You can watch people's videos over and over again. And even if you don't know the person, you can look them up and down and they'll never know that you're creeping on them. And that's just kind of like our culture now. I don't know if this would have been the same years ago, but I just think that's another factor that comes into play.
I think so. Well, and I think post-pandemic, like people lost their social niceties. Like they don't know how to be around people anymore. You've been staring at your cat for 2 years and now you can go back to the gym. Like everybody's probably interesting.
Yeah.
There's like a lot to take into consideration. I was thinking of like post Me Too, do you remember when Aziz Ansari was accused of SA, that
Yeah.
girl? And it turns out it was probably, I mean, we don't have real proof. We know what was said, like it probably was consensual. But on the heels of the Me Too movement, now women are all questioning their interactions with people, whether it was safe or not. Like we don't really have a definition for what is safe right now. Like we don't quite know what that looks like. And so many weeks later, she's like, oh my gosh, I bet you he did this. And it turns out he probably did not. Like it was just, she probably was talking to her girlfriends that were like, oh no, that wasn't right, that wasn't good. And I digress. I think we don't have enough vocabulary right now to say this is normal behavior. It's more like, oh crap, I'm afraid of being victimized in this way, because we saw some pretty extreme examples of victimization during Me Too, like Harvey Weinstein. What the hell?
Yeah.
Like that should never have been allowed to happen ever.
And it went on and on and on for
Yeah.
a long time. Yeah. I think most, if not all, women have been victims of something at some
Mhm.
point. I mean, I think it's pretty safe to say all women have, because if you're of a certain age, it's going to happen to you, and it's just been kind of like accepted for a long time. And I don't think that's right at all, to kind of maybe come on the other side of everything. I really don't. I think it's sad that we do have to be careful about what we're wearing in the gym, or I mean, you don't have to, but then you have to be ready to have people looking at you. It's like,
Mhm.
that's the sad part. Like when I go out on a date and I want to look nice, like people are going to be looking at me. I have to, I have to be prepared for that too. But I wish we did live in a world where men could respect women and not just like, oh, you see an attractive woman, you have to turn and look at her, or you see a woman in little booty shorts and a sports bra, and you're not going to look at, like, it's going to happen. Or even the way that men talk to women, or the way they treat them, or I don't know, like you're saying, I hope one day we kind of evolve into something a little bit more respectful in these situations. Because, like, I don't know if you've felt victimized by a man before. Like, I'm sure you have, because that's many women's stories. Most of the women I know, if not all of them.
Yeah, we
It just
have.
seems to be accepted
Creepers gonna
more.
creep. I mean, that's what happens,
Yeah.
right?
As far as the videoing people, I'm not one of those people that gets upset every time I see a camera. I don't care. If I'm out in public, I'm out in public. If you can't behave in public, then don't go out. I don't know what to tell you. Um, I think the whole trend is just an exercise in self-validation and ego boosting and whatnot. There's no reason to point out that a guy looks at you because he thinks you're attractive to shame him. All that serves to do is, I think these women just say, oh, look, everybody's looking at me because I'm at the gym and I'm so beautiful. But why are you looking at me? I'm just at the gym. It's like, first of all, you're probably wearing a little sports bra and really tight pants that are up your butt crack. So, first of all, there's that. I mean, let's be real. In a way, some don't. I get that. Some people just go to work out or whatever. But you can't tell me that there's this whole group of women who are known for taking selfies in the gym mirror with one leg popped up and their head back. They all make the same pose. We've seen it. Like, you're telling me you're doing that just for you and not so other people can look at you and be like, wow, look at that. Come on. Whatever happens to, like, just like, if a guy looks at you and thinks you're attractive, being like basically flattered and not try to like make him look like a bad person for thinking you're attractive. I get it. Like, if it's funny sometimes the guy's like staring at you and he trips over something and because he's not paying attention. Like, you see like the guy looking at the girl on the side of the road and he crashes his car because he's not paying attention. Like, that's kind of funny. I get that, but I don't know. The shaming people for finding you attractive thing, just I think that's totally narcissistic on the part of the girl to be like, look, this guy's looking at me, but I don't want him to. Like, well, you're out in public. People are gonna look at you. Whether
Yeah.
they're a creep or not, whether you want them to or not, it happens. I mean, I don't know. I think that it's completely juvenile and self-serving, but that's just my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
You can't tell everyone how to interact with you. People are going to look at you. People are going to ignore you. Just seems like a way to pump up their ego to me. Show that guys are checking them out. Because who sees their TikToks? All of their
Everybody.
friends or followers who also check them out because they probably also post things about them standing in the gym mirror. Come on.
I do wonder, like, as a woman who does not like being looked at, I dress like a hobo if I'm going to the gym. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
mitigate some of that.
And if you look good and someone recognizes that you look good, then why are you upset about that? Why does
Yeah.
that rub you the wrong way?
It's hard. I mean, you know that saying, and I'm gonna butcher it, I'm sure, because I don't know the exact words, but like women are always worried that men are gonna kill them, kind of a thing. Like that saying. I mean, historically, women do have more to fear from men than men have to fear from women. You know, like in general terms. I mean, there are some murderous women out there, I'm sure.
Yeah, but statistically speaking, men are more likely to murder anyone else than women. I
Right.
get that.
And as someone who's been in situations that were, you know, uncomfortable, I've never been like had my life in jeopardy, I don't think. But we've all dealt with creepers that come up to you and like, "Hey, girl." But like having dealt with those creepers, like there is always going to be like, "Oh crap, is this going to be another one of them?" I get that feeling. You know, I totally understand it. That's why I dress like a hobo at the gym. I don't know that we don't know what these dudes are. So we don't know the girl's background, like has she been attacked by creepers? And we don't know the guy's background. Is he just a dude that's making sure he knows who's around him?
Yeah, I think it's another one of those nothing things that like it shouldn't be something that people take notice of so much.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're in public, people are going to recognize that you're there. I mean, you're there. Sometimes it's obvious that they're ogling you,
Yeah.
but sometimes they're just looking around. And it's almost, what if they're trying to, this is a thing that happens, and I've had women get upset with me for this.
Uh-oh.
You have a shirt that says something on it. I want to read what it says. If it's like 3 lines of stuff, I'm not staring at your boobs because it happens to be where the words are. I'm just curious what your shirt says. Like, don't get mad at me. You wore a shirt that says something. I'm gonna read it, and it'll take me a second because I want to read the lines. Like, I don't know. Like, that's
I have to
happened
know
to me
what it
before
says.
though too. And like, it's like, why I'm up here, and I was like, yeah, but the words are right there, and I was
Right.
reading what they said.
It might
I
have
was
been
curious.
profound. It could
Okay,
have changed my life.
it wasn't, but I was curious. There's words. I'm gonna read them.
That's fair. That's fair. As the girl who always had to read the cereal boxes,
Yeah, you want to know what it says, right?
absolutely.
Not everything says juicy on it. Remember when that was a thing? When
Or
people would have
baby.
juicy on their butt? Like, you're just asking people to look at your butt. That's all you're doing.
because it's a juicy butt now.
Because everybody wants to read whatever's on your clothes, and it's right there. Like, you're facilitating this on purpose.
Oh my gosh. Might as well put something profound, right? To be or not to be.
Shakespeare shorts.
Yeah.
Let's start a business. We'll make little booty shorts for
Shakespeare
girls that say like really profound things. We're just trying to spread the word, and this is the best way to do it.
Absolutely. Pervs need educating too. That's what I got.
I'd make them all political just for fun.
They should be feminist slogans, though. Wouldn't that be funny? I don't think that would be terrible. I mean,
It's
I
not
would not wear them.
exploitation per se.
No,
You
it's
know?
empowering. We should do.
You can
Sorry,
order
Mom.
yours today. Send us an email if you want some Shakespeare shorts color, and we'll design some. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for riding with us on this crazy train and not spilling your Rakija. Until next time, stay beautiful, Bosnia.